here's what let me tell you what I've been workshopping in my own brain for an intro here.
Okay, I'm ready.
So when I interviewed Andy, I did like some sleuthing on the internet and found out plenty of stuff about him. You're a little bit harder to find stuff on. I find it seems to me that like a lot of projects that you work on, you do a lot of work, but some of them like you're shadow. You're like the shadow man making stuff happen, and so it's not quite as much right out there. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know precisely what you mean.
Yeah. But so here's what I was thinking. Like, so here we go. All right. Well, first of all, do you know any good like old prospector swears? Like sailorman swears. They're not real swear words. Like tarnation or consarnate, that kind of stuff.
Malarkey.
Okay. Get your prospector swear ready. So here we go. For those of you who don't know, I'm here to let you know that this is a family-friendly show. So if you want to listen to something terrible and offensive, you've got 5 seconds to do so. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tarnation.
Malarkey. There we go. See, keeping it nice and PG.
Perfect.
I love it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm gonna do my best to keep it PG on my end.
Yeah, don't feel too stressed about it. I've got a little bleep thing I can put in post and stuff. But while I was sleuthing you a little bit, trying to find out some stuff about you on the internet, just doing some Googling, I did come across this episode of the Scaled Down podcast that you and Andy did together.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's with our good friend Brad Green. He's the lead piper for Seven Nations. If you've never heard that band, they're really good.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say that I hadn't. Well, okay, so I had heard of them, but had not listened to them until I heard him interviewed on your podcast on Chanter.
Yeah, no, he's great.
He is, yeah. I'm glad you guys interviewed him, because after that I've been listening to their stuff quite a bit, and they're amazing.
It's always so funny because like people tend to get the idea that there's just so many more people out there doing kind of like hybrid piping, rock and roll, different genres of music. They think that there's so many people out there doing it poorly versus like just a few people doing it well. And I would say it's really the opposite. It's just that, the way the internet works, the general public tends to kind of highlight some of the more gimmicky and horrible performances that we see, And then you get great bands like Seven Nations, or Real Mackenzie's, like these awesome bands that just kind of, suddenly are backing out. You Google bagpipe rock and roll and it's someone with flamethrowers on Fremont Street.
Right, yeah. Speaking of those great bands, have you ever heard of one called Brother?
I've not. No, I'm writing it down. I
actually only just recently found out that's who they were. When I was first starting to learn to play, this would have been like 2004. This guy, Don Smith, who's kind of he appears in everybody's sort of, is pedagogy, I think that's the word for who taught whom. Like, yeah. He appears in a lot of people's pedagogy here in Utah, especially in Utah County. And he gave my buddy and I, this was in sort of we're still kind of riding the wave of like Napster and LimeWire at the time.
Oh God.
And so he
computer killers.
Yep. So he gave us some burned CDs of like rock and pipe tunes, and there were a lot of tunes in there I liked a lot, but I never knew who did them. Like I assumed it must have been like, I don't know, a lesser known Victoria Police album or something.
That's the thing, yeah. I mean, that was the way it was.
Yeah, you'd get these songs, but who knows who did them, right?
Yeah, like you would get, you'd be like at events and like, or like driving to events, and someone would have these like shite homemade, burned CDs that you're listening to on the way there, and you're like, wait, who's this? Like,
yeah,
what?
Like track 4 is a banger. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, it's like trading in black market pipe music, you know, because there just wasn't a lot of recordings available, and especially here in the States and like in the West Coast, I can't like go to the Barnes and Noble and pick up like a Phil Marshall CD. Like that's just it's just not gonna happen, right? It's not available. So it's like, oh, thank God for the internet.
Yeah, and that's so like I had tried. So I've retained several of these tracks through the years, just like on Google Drive and stuff. And every once in a while, I would try like, Google and a few other software like apps and stuff out there where you can play a song and it'll identify the song for you. And I tried a few times, and I never was getting an identification on these songs. But just like a few weeks ago, I just tried again, and it turns out this band Brother did a lot of them. And let's see, actually, I'm going to look real quick. Brother.
Yeah, that's one of the great things too, because like nowadays you can post it on your Facebook page and be like, does anybody know what this is?
Right, and somebody
Like,
will, right?
Yeah, like, especially the pipe band community, because it's so small, it's so niche, and you get those. I mean, we've got some of the nerdiest nerds in the world.
Ain't that the truth?
In piping, like guys that have just memorized so many sets and who won what year and all that stuff. I'm like, oh man, I could not imagine having that much information in my brain. I'd rather practice.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I was just talking with another friend about, so I was talking with a piping friend about another piping friend, happened to be my buddy Mike Swan, who's been on the podcast a couple times, and I was just mentioning this other piping friend, like, I have to ask Mike Swan what kind of drone reeds I have because I can't remember, but he knows, right? Like,
yeah, oh yeah,
he knows what kinds of drone reeds everybody has because he's that kind of guy who retains all that info.
I mean, yeah, and even you get the guys that are more in charge of like the musical tone of the band and things like that. I mean, and a lot of times, when we were in Northern Ireland, that was like the pipe sergeant was like he was the tone guy because he was like one of the older players in the band. But I mean, even like in our band, I guarantee if I put a list of names of every piper in our band, Fusco could probably write out what kind of bagpipes they play. Like,
oh, really?
I guarantee it. He'd be like, this person plays McRae's, this person's playing McCallum's, these are more McRae's, mine's are Atherton's.
Yeah, man, I respect it. I'm not making fun of anybody or anything like that. That's awesome. But I'm more of just like, oh, those are bagpipes kind of guy.
I was that way for the vast majority of my piping career until like very recently, especially like starting out. It's like when I was starting out, nobody really took responsibility for their own instrument like they do nowadays.
Oh yeah.
And so I was like, you drag your horrific bundle of sticks to practice, and you hand them to the pipe major, and
they do everything.
And you're like, please make this good, you know. And so there's not like really customization to your playing styles or strengths, and you're not you're just like this operator of a thing that you don't fully understand. So you're never really gonna have a 360 view of what needs to be done and how to maintain it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm trying to think now. I've listened to so many hours of Chanter Rant. I can't remember if I heard it on your podcast.
You poor soul.
I don't remember if I've heard you guys talking about it or if it's that good old Doogie has talked about it elsewhere. But like this, it seems like until recently, at least it seems like in my childhood, it was like a black magic, a secret art, something that was like held secretly to the chest of a very few people how to do bagpipes, and the rest of us just had to, trust the wizards.
And it's so crazy to me how far that's come. I mean, I've been playing for, like 18 years now, and it's amazing to me how far that's come from like when I started, where nobody knew anything about anything, to like everybody is a like gear critic and like comparing drone reeds and all this crazy stuff.
Right,
now. I'm like, it's great, right? Because I mean, it's a rising tide lifts all ships, right? So the more people that know this kind of stuff, the better the overall quality of playing becomes, especially in America, where like honestly, like West Coast American bands are not regarded globally as like super great. You know?
Of course it's us and all of our friends, so we don't want to come across as being degrading.
Yeah.
But the honest truth is we've got plenty of room to grow. Like there's a lot.
And
that tide could rise quite a bit over here.
Yeah, I mean you hear like a grade 3A band in Scotland, and then you hear like a grade 3 band here, with the exception of the tremendous winners. Oh, did they win 3? I think was it Pasadena won 3. I'm pretty sure when they went to the Worlds.
I mean,
their band's phenomenal, but holy the amount of work that they put in as a team to get that win is just insane. And then you go to like a grade 4 contest in Prescott, and it's like, no offense to anybody, but it's not the same, right? It's like, all right,
not the same thing. Yeah.
I'm gonna hear three bands play 3 attempts at Duncan McInnes.
Right. Yeah.
All with glaring issues.
Right. Yeah.
But it's it's one of those things we talk about on the show sometimes. I think we talked about this recently, where it's like if you do everything right in your band and you bring a player in and you cultivate them and you make them a competent competent on their instrumentation, competent on their tone, maintenance, and blowing, and you get them to be really good in your grade 4 band, they're just going to leave and go play in a higher grade.
Right. That's when they leave.
So it's like if you do your job perfectly, you get constant turnover, and if you do your job poorly, you just like have crap sound. You have like the same people for 10 years playing like crap. So you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want it to come across in any way like a discouraging thing at all, but like that's where our pipe band is set up. Well, at least originally has been set up like as an educational organization first. Like the main focus is get people in here and teach them how to play. And we also, I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but Utah's pipe bands, it seems in the past, have been kind of territorial, kind of tribal, which is kind of a funny thing where there are so few people who play pipes. You'd think that we'd all just be, I don't know. I've heard some people actually blame it on the fact that, like, with alcohol laws, we haven't been able to have a real beer tent at games in Utah, and so we can't really hang out.
I've been to the Utah games plenty of times. There's beer if you know where to look.
Right.
There's no worries there.
There's some speakeasy tents here and there, right?
But I mean, honestly, it's like that everywhere. Like we're the only civilian band in my area. And we've got like an Emerald Society band, and like the fire service guys kind of have like a group that they put together to play. I don't want to like crap on them, but I don't want to call it a band because it's like 4 dudes.
Well, if anybody wants to hear you crap on them, they can just hop over to the Chanter Rant.
Yeah, I'm about to say they can hop over to my show. The funniest thing is like I'm friends with a lot of those guys, and like a lot of them listen to the show.
Oh yeah.
So it's just doubly fun when I give them crap because it's like, dude, like come on, man, like you got ears, like what do you want me to do about this?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a hero and all, but tune your drums.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I don't want anybody to feel bad at all about this, bringing it up. But the fact is that like we're in this position where we try really hard to bring a lot of people in and teach them how to play, and then they, with real raw talent, we've had a lot of people who progress quickly, and then you can't blame them for then going, okay, well, I'm a young person with now this incredible, playing ability on the bagpipes or drums, and this is a grade 4 or grade 5 band. I'm gonna go play with the grade 2 band, and who can blame them? Of course.
Yeah, no, and you gotta encourage that, right? Because I mean, the other thing people forget. We talk about turnover. We talk about like bands, whatever. Like that's your friends.
Yep.
Like the people in your band are like the people you hang out with a ton, like once a week and a lot of weekends.
Yeah.
So it's always a little heartbreaking when they hit that point. They're like, hey, I'm gonna play up. I think I can be better. But it's also your friend. You're like, dude, you should do it. Like, if it's what you want and it's gonna make you a better musician, like you have to do it. And even if people talk about like, well, you're gonna screw over your home band if you travel to play with a higher grade. It's like, I mean, yeah, sort of. But at the same time, like I would never hold that against somebody. I'd be like, it's like, hey, you got to do you got to do what's good for you, and it's not like you're gonna move to that place usually. So you still have a local player that's consistently improving themselves for everything else you do, for instruction, for gigs, for all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's gonna travel to play in a higher grade band and then just like turn in their kill. Like, oh, I'm not gonna play with you guys, weekly. Right. I'm only gonna practice once a month with my out of town band.
Yep. Or seasons of life. It's entirely likely that anyone who leaves one band, later, because they have kids or their job changes or something, you'll be playing with them again.
100%.
Yeah, I was talking about this with Carrie Ann with Wasatch and District the other day about how it's we could see it kind of like the hero's journey cycle, where like you can send these people off to play with a grade 3 or grade 2 band, and they might bring something back. They might.
Oh, they always will. I mean, send them. Raise some money. Send them to go play with the band at the Worlds, man.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the kinds of experiences where it's always worth it. You always bring something back, and it's valuable.
Yeah.
You gotta basically work on you, so you can work on other people.
Yeah. Well, so it seems like when it comes down to it, for lower grade bands, if the focus is I want to keep everyone who comes in my doors and rise through the ranks, then we might be setting ourselves up for disappointment. But if the focus is I want to make music and make friends and share this, then we probably will never be disappointed. And so then as people come in, show talent, and progress and move on to play with other bands, it's good for them. And they remain friends forever. And then that kind of tribalness between bands could start to break down as well, because then you have friends going out into all other bands.
Yeah, I think so for sure. I mean, you wouldn't think it with the content of our show, because we just love taking pokes at people because it's funny, and that's what we do. We do a comedy show.
hold on to that. I don't want you to lose that. I just want to throw in here real quick before I forget. I probably mentioned it in Addie's episode as well. If you're okay with crazy language and nutsy shenanigans, I couldn't recommend the Chanter Rant podcast highly enough. So check it out if you feel. But when you do check it out, don't listen to it on loudspeakers at work or with your kids in the room or something like that.
Yeah, that would be ill advised.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do that.
And my plug / warning. Now you carry on.
Yeah, well, and then, the thing for us is we're always in this place. Part of just because of like the kind of content that we like to consume and create, but also just because of the way we are as individuals. We're in this place where we're always like, but what if we just pushed it a little more? What it's how, and we've definitely had several occasions where we went too far, like 100%.
Yeah.
And then we gotta make apologies. We gotta do all this stuff, and we're fairly sincere in what we do. We're just as sincere when we're telling someone they're doing great as we are when they're telling someone that, like, hey, this is crap. Like, sorry, I'm not Stuart Little, but he wouldn't listen to this, so don't, I'm the best you get.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just always kind of approach it from a point of being sincere. It's such a small community that, a lot of people look at it as, I'm just going to hold my tongue so that I don't burn any bridges because it's such a small community. And for us, it's like, I'm not going to hold my tongue, and if I upset you, whatever, like, 9 times out of 10, I'll reach out to these people and I'm like, hey, like, I'm sorry that, it was a little harsh, but, like, dude, you can't go through life walking on eggshells. It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Especially not with bagpipers, man. Like, come on.
Well,
you're in a pipe band. Buck up, kid.
Yeah, aside from your content being funny and often, like, very genuinely informative, not only when you have good guests on there, but, like, there's some of the stuff from your first year when you guys were talking that really guided some of what I and other people in our pipe band did as far as decisions that we needed to make. It's really genuinely helpful. Aside from that, I think that part of the popularity of the Chanter Rant is that it's cathartic for people to listen to and just be like, oh, they're just saying it. Like, even when I disagree, sometimes I disagree with you guys, but I don't mind disagreeing with you because it's such a relief to have people just go ahead and say it. Like, no more tiptoeing.
We're no strangers to being wrong. Like, we've been wrong plenty of times in our 150 some odd episodes. Like, we'll be wrong again. That happens. We're kind of like our general mentality with the whole organization is like, all right, like, it's better to, like, make a mistake and apologize for it than to not do anything because you're afraid to make a mistake.
Yeah.
So, just pull the trigger and, call someone something horrible. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't do that, guys. Yeah.
Well,
we've learned that lesson for you.
You do apologize, though, and I think it comes across as perfectly genuine. I think that's part of why some of the people who I know have been deeply offended by the Chanter Rant in the past.
Still listen.
Some of them, they still listen, and some of them are even coming around to be guests on the show now because it's like you give it some time, you realize, like, these guys, it's basically a private conversation that we all get to listen in on.
Yeah, and our hearts are in the right place. And we've had very few occasions where, like, we had beef with someone, and it was like we were genuinely, like, mad at that person.
Sure, yeah.
Like, usually we're just like, hey, don't be an a-hole, man. Like,
yeah.
Come on, And sometimes we're the the old saying is if you're going through life and you run into an a-hole, then you ran into an a-hole. If you go through life and every person that you run into is an a-hole, you're the a-hole.
Yeah.
So I kept that pretty PG for you, man. You see how I did there?
Hey, I appreciate it. It was really kind of you. I was going to say I listened to that episode of the Scaled Down podcast. First of all, I thought it was funny that this is a podcast, for anybody who hasn't heard it before, that focuses on people in sort of the creative space and how their relationships work.
It is,
and so a lot of these thumbnails are of, like, married couples. And then this thumbnail of you and Andy, I noticed that you're, like, 6 feet apart with 2 women between you, just to make absolutely sure that nobody suspects that you happen to be a romantically involved couple.
Was that the I think that was the Showgirls.
Yep, definitely a couple of Showgirls. Yeah. And so it's like, let's just make absolutely sure everybody knows that we are hetero, and we are this was pre-COVID, but you're social distancing in a wonderful way from each other.
Anybody that knows me and Sco definitely know our history of often imbibing too much and partaking of the feminine form. Let's just put it that way. All right.
Well, and speaking of imbibing too much, then I look at the show notes from this episode, right? And a few things that stood out to me as keep in mind, this is me getting ready to interview you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how'd it go for these guys? Let's see. We've got Josh gets drunk about halfway through and starts to slur his words as we try to get past his game show host personality.
Yep.
Then we have this part was great. If you learned a few new words, or all of a sudden you think that we're devil worshippers after this episode, we can't blame you. Like, all right. Yep, this is the guy I'm interviewing.
Yeah. Well, and they're so fun, and they have such a interest. I don't know how much you know about them, but I would look into some of their early episodes if you haven't heard the Scale Down podcast. They have such an interesting history and such a strong relationship. Like, it makes so much sense for those two to be people who are interviewing people about their relationships. And for us, it was a creative relationship, right? It's like, I've been doing creative stuff with Sco for, I don't even know how long, 15 years maybe?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, and not aside from a lot of other projects, I will give, with no warning, just a complete 100% plug. If anybody has not looked at the excellent content that the Las Vegas Pipe Band has on YouTube, you got to get on there. There's some stuff that's really good and informative. I love the interview with Stuart Little, for example, stuff like that. But my favorite stuff are these, like, the cost of a wicked tinker, Andy wearing a dollar bill T-shirt.
Oh yeah, and like so much of that stuff, because we decided, I had just moved back to Vegas. I was living in Reno for about 5 years. I was doing school, and then I moved back to Vegas. And I got back involved with the band pretty quickly. I hadn't played in a while, so I was getting my playing back up. No, I would love to say because I was focusing on my studies, but no, I was in college, man. I was having a good time.
Yeah.
And so then, I come back, and the band had already the leadership of the band at the time. So Andy was a pipe major, and then we had a president, Evelyn, at the time, who was awesome. She was a piper, and then she was a president. She just had, she was so far ahead of the curve of like content type things, and like, here's the channels where we should start growing the band to get more exposure. And they were like, yeah, we want to do some YouTube stuff. And Josh moved back, and I had a background doing like, videography, audio, all kinds of anything you have to edit on a computer, basically. I was like, yeah, I know how to do that.
Yeah. And
they're like, they just gave me the keys and ran with it. They're like, all right. So I remember in those first couple of years, like we were doing a video, like we were posting one video a week, no matter what. We had like 4 different kind of like types of content that we would be shooting. And that's how it was. It was we're going to have some serious stuff where we're doing interviews and whatever, because we have people traveling through all the time. We're going to do, performance stuff, obviously, from the concert, because we worked so hard on that. We should start filming it and like getting good filming for it.
Yeah, I was telling Andy, that is what I think all pipe bands should aspire to for like community outreach concerts. That Celtic Thanksgiving is amazing.
Oh man, it's so much fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's an absolute organizational nightmare leading up to it, but like once you're stepping out on stage, it's just like the best. It's the most fun that you never want to have again,
Yeah.
And then so we were doing that stuff, and then we are 2 goofballs, so we're like, hey, we got some ideas for some stuff that we think people would think is funny, like pipe band people. Pipe band people might think this is funny, and they always kind of drove a thing, right? I mean, the dollars the dollars taped to a half-naked Andy Fusco was that was a bit to sell fundraising T-shirts.
It's such a good way to sell. We've tried to sell T-shirts before, and we didn't have that kind of a good idea. It's such a good pitch.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So they're like, hey, like we should do a video to sell the shirts, like blah blah blah. And like we had come up with some ideas that were like pretty straightforward or whatever. I was like, man, we need something that's like gonna immediately make people stop and click. And and just that picture of Andy with the dollars taped all over him. And we have this saying whenever we're filming content, and you'll hear it sometimes on the show too. It definitely came up when we did the shock collar episode.
Yeah.
But like we're constantly saying like, oh, this is the new like dumbest thing that we've ever done,
By the way,
somehow that bar keeps raising.
Yeah, you wouldn't think, or lowering, right, one way or the other.
Yeah, or lowering one way or the other.
Yeah, that shock collar episode was actually the first episode that I've ever gone onto Patreon to watch, so I could get every single minute of it. Because I was like,
my God.
I don't want the edited version of this. I want every last little bit.
It was that's genuine pain that you're seeing. I can vouch for that. But yeah, like when we when we talked about the shock collar idea, we had no idea how much that thing was going to hurt. And like by the time that we had realized our error, we were like, we're about to record, and we'd already advertised it. Yeah.
Not to mention you were raising money for kids with cancer, so you couldn't.
Well, yeah, no. Like we told people, like people had already sent in donations before we hit record. We were like, oh man, like we gotta do this now.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was a full send, and I never want to do it again, and I feel like we're never not gonna do it. So I'm just gonna slowly steel myself for next time I have to get electrocuted.
Yeah, just electrocute yourself once every morning or something to start getting into it, right?
It was bad because it was so funny because I had shocked myself before Fusco had come over, and so I knew. It's like he's like, how is it? I was like, oh, it's bad. He's like, really? And he was my favorite part from that episode. And I don't think it made it into the YouTube like compilation video because the compilation video was just the hits. You know, it was just us getting zapped and swearing. And I loved like the whole first like 30 minutes of that show because he was so visibly terrified for when it was going to be his turn. Because he saw me getting hit, and you know, he's like, I know Josh. Like he's kind of a tough son of a bee. Like if he's jumping like this is gonna hurt. Right. And I was like, yeah, dude. Like, it was so funny. And then my other favorite part, because my girlfriend was actually the one that was administering.
Right. Did that strengthen your relationship, or has that become a wedge?
Every time I see her reach for a remote control, I sweat.
Got a little Pavlov's dog thing going on.
Yeah, she reaches for the TV remote, and I sweat a little bit. I'm like, wait a minute. But yeah, and so it was fun because she never gets to like do chanter stuff with us usually.
Yeah,
and
well, so maybe that's actually safest. Right?
And she had, it's definitely safest. It'll definitely extend the length of my relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so she had her just cackling in the background while we are being tortured. She had so much fun, and I was just like, ah.
Well, at least
it's a nice moment we got to share. It's like, hey, this is what it's like to do the show. It's often insane, you know.
And now you came away with like this really great insight as to how to bring your significant other a lot of joy.
Yeah, just let them shock you with a dog collar. They'll get a kick out of it. Although I think she enjoyed shocking Andy more.
Oh, that's probably good. I mean, she comes back to you or something, right?
But it's just one of those weird things. I'm always wondering. I've been wondering since we started the Pipeband YouTube channel. When does the well run dry? You know, of just like weird, crazy ideas, and it hasn't yet, and it's been a long time. So I feel confident we'll always come up with something new and stupid.
Yeah, robbing a bank or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can, and I think one of the content's so popular, both the video and like the videos. Because people can tell we're having a good time, and at the end of the day, that's the pipe band is right. It's, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's long crap practices and long crap parades, but like there's so much more to it. Like in terms of expanding your friend group and traveling and seeing places and meeting new and interesting people, and calling them swear words on the radio. Like it's just a fun world to be a part of, and we're very fortunate that people want to watch our shenanigans.
Well, they sure do. Your shenanigans are excellent. Not to inflate your ego too much, but you got some good shenanigans going on. Now, as I looked around trying to find dirt on you, I did find Josh McEachran, who is a footballer in the UK who was making £1.5 million as of 2014. That's not you.
No, I definitely took the wrong career path there, but I don't think I can run that much.
Yeah. Oh man. I've only been on a real football pitch once or twice in my life, and it blows my mind how big they are.
They're humongous.
I play soccer like on a basketball court during the winter, and like that gets me tired. But man,
people talk about like football fields, like American football fields, being like, oh man, well I could run an American football field. And it's like, dude, these guys could run an American football field 700 times. Like, yeah, like I was like, you got nothing. Bro.
Not to mention kick a ball across it.
Yeah, well, that doesn't. let's just say growing up in the southwestern United States, there wasn't a lot of soccer.
Yeah,
a lot of soccer
didn't
going
spend a
on
lot
for
of
me.
time with that. But what did
Nah,
go on
just-
with you? That's what I want to ask you about. You're Josh Mac Ekron. Is that how you'd pronounce it? Mac Ekron?
Yeah, Mac Eckern.
Mac
That's
Ekron.
me.
Mac Ekron.
Yeah.
It's a cool last
Nice,
name. I like
nice
that.
Russian name.
Nice Russian name. I like that. Yeah.
So this is a Easter egg for your audience that nobody else knows. My middle name is actually Angus.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so it's Josh Angus McEckern.
Well, that is just about as on
I mean,
point as you could get.
yeah,
for a bagpipes.
if I'm not going to play bagpipes and wear a kilt, what the heck am I going to do
Yeah.
with that kind of a name?
So then take me back to little Josh. Where'd you come from? What do you like? What did you like as a kid? When did you first hear bagpipes? Give me a biopic.
Yeah, so I am from Las Vegas, where I currently live. I'm one of the rare born and bred Las Vegans. And then growing up, I played guitar first, and so I was playing guitar in like crap garage rock bands, as one does when they're very young.
Oh yeah, what I did find something. Emu Love Fest. Is that, was that your band name? Was it Emu Love Fest?
That was one of the bands I played in. That was my band. I think it was in like middle school and high school.
It's a great name.
I think.
Great
yeah,
name.
that was me and just me and three of my friends. Kid that lived in my neighborhood, a couple friends from school. Kind of a rotating cast. My brother was in the band for a while. He played bass for us.
Now,
And we were easily the loudest band in Las Vegas.
easily the loudest, huh?
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't say the
Amps
best,
that go to
but
11. I think we probably graduated high school around the same time, probably within a year or two of each other. I was born in '89.
oh yeah. So I graduated 09.
Okay, so I graduated 2 years ahead of you.
Yeah.
So it seems to me, I'm just thinking like music genres that were cool at the time. What would kids have been playing? Like, were you doing like emo-y stuff, or were you doing like screamo stuff? Who were you following? Were you following Slipknot, or were you following My Chemical Romance? What kind of stuff were you doing?
We were weird, man. So we played, because you're right, like around that time, especially going like local shows, there's like 3 genres, right?
Yeah.
Like here in Vegas, you'd go to a local show and it was like screaming death metal,
Yeah.
or ska, and that was basically, like that's what you had.
Yeah.
And then in our band, we all listened to such different music. It was really weird. So I don't know how I would describe it. It was like maybe like freaking Hootie and the Blowfish meets Smashing Pumpkins or something like that. Like it was,
Okay.
we had all these, and like some of our songs, we had this weird mix because like I was writing, I think I wrote about the vast majority of the songs I wrote.
Musically and lyrically.
Yeah, and they were so weird because like I was still me, so like I was still like writing funny stuff and like stuff that I thought would be fun. So and we had songs that would be in, mind you, this was a long time ago, kids. So we had songs that would be in very poor taste today as far as their subject content.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But we had like some serious ones, and then we had we'd have a serious song about like drinking and drug abuse, and then we'd follow it up with a song that was like called "She Must Be a Lesbian," and like the point of the song was that like this chick didn't want to go out with me.
And so that's the only logical conclusion, of course.
Yeah, that's the only logical conclusion. And it's like the song, when you listen to the whole song, like it's more making fun of me. It's not like saying, oh, like this chick, she must be a lesbian because she won't date me. It's like, how could someone be so self-involved and idiotic
Right.
that they would think a girl just doesn't like dudes if they don't like that dude, you know?
But of course, on the surface, a title like that doesn't exactly seem.
And it was weird. It had like this kind of like a reggae beat verse, like a type thing, and then the chorus was just like full on power chords, just going nuts. And then we had like some like more punk rock stuff. We had some more like weird, crappy rock ballad type ones that were never as popular. The songs I hated the most were always the most popular songs.
No, and what did you have? Yeah. Were you playing guitar then? Your brother on bass? You had somebody on keyboard and someone on drums?
So I was playing lead guitar and I was vocals for the vast majority of the songs. I had a couple covers that I didn't have to sing on, which was great because I could just rock out and sit in my corner and enjoy myself. But yeah, so I played guitar and sang, and then I had another really good friend of mine, best friend for years, who played guitar and sang. And then my brother played bass, and then my like childhood friend that lived behind my folks' place played drums. He lived behind my folks' place in another house. He was in the same neighborhood. It's not like in a refrigerator box.
Yeah, you didn't have a tent set up in your parents' backyard there.
And yeah, that's what we did, right? We would get together after school and we'd take over the garage in my folks' place and just, God bless my parents and their neighbors for putting up with us.
It's a good childhood. I mean, it sounds like a great childhood.
But we had fun. So, I'd be playing in bands and stuff. And, but before that I was playing guitar just myself before I was in any bands. Going, there's a bleep for you. Going, 20 minutes back to when you actually asked me a question that I went on this tangent for.
That's sort of the model for this for the show. So don't worry about it.
Yeah. So I had gone to, I don't remember if it was, it might have been a Renaissance fair here.
Okay, I don't think that's the beginning of every good story. I'm not sure, but it might have been a Renaissance fair.
Because I don't remember us having. I don't think we actually had like a legit Highland Games at the time. I think this was before we had a legit Highland Games. Mm-hmm. And saw bagpipes. Someone was playing. I couldn't tell you who it was. Save my soul. But someone was playing bagpipes. And I was like, oh, I was like, that's really cool and like really loud. Like that's awesome. I'd love to learn how to play that.
Yeah, it's actually, this is lining up for me just hearing about your childhood, that bagpipes are cool, kind of quirky, can be funny, and very loud. And that's kind of your criteria for music.
That checks all my boxes, man. And so and I was probably like 12 at the time. And and so my dad, who was like stoked on the idea of me playing bagpipes, because he loved pipe music and things like that, and he didn't play any instruments, nothing. So he's like, oh, like heck yeah, dude. So he looked up the band, which is now the Las Vegas Pipe Band. At the time, it was called the Desert Sky Pipe Band, and they did lessons. And that the rest, as they say, is history. I went to lessons every week and grew up in pipe band and went to competitions and did solos and traveled and
nice.
And then just kind of helped out where I could.
Now, okay, so. But you left, so that you played with Desert Sky, then you left. When you came back to Vegas, was it still Desert Sky, or had it been rebranded at that point to Las Vegas Pipe Band?
I think they changed it. I want to say they might have changed it before I left.
Gotcha.
I'm not entirely sure. The timeline is a little fuzzy for me, just due to years of substance abuse. But But yeah, I think we had changed it to Las Vegas Pipe Band before I left, and then I came back. And it's so funny because while I was gone, the band had like 30 people in it, and then I came back and it was it was like 5 guys.
You
I'm like,
seemed
what the
to
hell?
chase them away or something.
I just moved back. I'm like, where the hell are all the players? I saw a video of you guys. There was 30 people in the band. Yeah. Where'd everybody go? But you get people got married, people moved, people kids went to college. Like that stuff happens, man. Band is super. It's super cyclical. Like you're. No matter how high you are, eventually you're going to be down, and no matter how down you are, eventually you'll be high again.
Yes. And I think that does play into what we were talking about earlier about how like you got to set your sights on things that can be consistently there forever. Like you're building friendships, you're having fun playing music. Because even for like a grade 4 band, that it's good to plan to move up, but all your best laid plans, people are going to get married, go to school, etc.,
Well, and people playing, I'm always a fan of people playing with other bands when you talk about musical development, just because, one of the biggest issues you run into that I've seen, especially with people who play consistently for a long time at what would be considered a lower level. So like I've been playing in a grade 4 band for, 8 years, and that's all I do. You're going to fall into a rut fairly quickly, and musical complacency will harm you in every aspect of the instrument. It'll harm you in your finger work. It'll harm you in your blowing ability and your, upkeep of your instrument. So the good news is if you go play with someone else for a bit, you have to learn new music, right? Mm-hmm, and that makes you better. Like people get stuck in a repertoire of 10 tunes for an entire piping career. I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah, you need that push and pull, that sort of two different balances. I talk about this with my students, that like I want them to work hard, because by working hard you'll be able to do things that are fun, but I also want you to have fun, because if all you ever do is work, you'll just hate the bagpipes. So you need that, like, something to shake it up sometimes, and sometimes the best thing to shake it up is playing with a different organization.
Yeah, and it's easy to do with a different organization because you don't have to self-motivate.
Yeah, they'll tell you, learn these tunes by this day.
You could have a 10-tune repertoire in your grade 4 band, right? Okay, we have 2 competition sets and a parade set. cool. You could still have that and learn a new tune every week if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But it's just creating barriers. And I've, throughout a very long career of trying to teach and motivate people, the easier you can make it or the more you can force it, the more likely people are to do it.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about. One of these shadow projects that you've got fingerprints on, but I don't think your name appears anywhere on it, is the dojo's Bagpipers planner.
Yes.
Are you?
This is going to be.
Am I supposed
this
to
is
reveal
be,
this? Is this not supposed to be known?
No. That's easy. That actually was the brainchild of Andrew Douglas. I mean, it's his creative input on every aspect of that. I was just the designer basically. So so he knew what he wanted. I made a few helpful things aesthetically and functionally. But he came to me and he's like, "Hey, I want to make a book. I want to do it in a week. I already know what I want." And I was like, "All right, let's do it."
Gotcha. Well, I like it. I've been using it, but kind of, sort of, just on the topic, of sort of self-motivation. I feel like having listened to you talk for many hours, Josh. I feel like you're. How would I describe it? You have a healthy grasp on reality, or maybe you've got a healthy pessimism about you.
I think that'd be fair.
So I think I can say to you, and you'll understand what I mean, that my life is a series of failures. And not that I'm getting down in the dumps here, but it's the way it is, It's like, how many times have I said to myself, I'm going to learn this tune or I'm going to practice every day? At this point, after having been, I've been playing bagpipes for getting closer to 20 years all the time now, I fail over and over again constantly. And just in January, I did an episode with my buddy Mike, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do the Dojo 100-Day Challenge. I've got this Piper's Planner. It's going to help me. Let's get back together and talk in 100 days. I'll tell you what, it's been about 90 days since then, and I've played my pipes. I'm looking at my check marks right now. I'm not going to count every single one, but rounding up 25 times.
Oh, no.
So here I am sitting on failure once again. What do I do with this, and this is, because I think a lot of us go through this where we get motivated for a day, and it's not just piping, but this is about piping. This podcast is for pipers, right? And drummers, of course. Don't let me let the drummers out.
Go get out of here, drummers. Go tap on your steering wheel. I ain't got nothing for you right now.
But I know you just barely go tap on your steering wheel. That's good. I know you just got a new set of pipes, so that's something that motivates you. What do you do? Or even if you can't look at your own life as a model, what wisdom would you shed on this? What do I do?
I would definitely not look at my life as a model because it is a symphony of failures. But it's like that with anything, right? I mean, look at it. Look at it. The pain of trying to do, right, versus not doing. Is you're gonna fail often. You're gonna fail often and consistently, and you kind of need to develop that realization that if my goal is to go to the gym every day for 30 days and I only do 15, I could look at that as a failure because I did half of what I wanted to do, but I did 50% more than nothing also.
Right. That's that second bit there. I think that is what I have a hard time hanging on to sometimes.
So you gotta, you gotta mantra that. I mean, for me, I've got a healthy list of screw ups in my personal, professional, hobbyist career. But it's like you gotta. What's the alternative? I guess you're not gonna get. I can sit on the couch and binge more Netflix, I guess, but that's not going to bring me as much joy as nearly getting to a goal. If I go,
I tried it and I think I watched all of Netflix. I'm bored with it now.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, one, you have to, and this was a hard thing for me, especially during the pandemic because I had such a hard time self motivating and I was so down in the dumps because I wasn't seeing I wasn't going out to my band once a week.
Yeah,
and even a crap practice is better than no practice. So true. So, and I got down to the dumps and I wasn't playing. I mean, I probably didn't pick up my pipes for the first 6 months of quarantine. Yeah. Because I was like, on the outside of that now, looking back, I'm like, oh, what an idiot, right? Because it's something that I enjoy doing. The simple act of me getting my instrument out and playing it would have lessened my depression, which would have made me more likely to continue playing. You know what I mean? Like
Right, but
it's a feedback loop. But when
yeah,
you're
that's the tricky thing about depression, right? It makes it so you can't do the thing that would get you
yeah,
out
when
of it.
you're inside of it, right? It's really hard. You can't see the forest for the trees, right? Like
Yeah.
it's really hard to figure that out. And so like I totally get it. If you're going to do this for a while, and I'm hoping that all of the people that we associate with and the people that are listening are going to stick with it and do it for a while, you're going to have to get used to getting knocked down, dude. Like that just happens.
Yeah.
It's not like show me a person that has just without any personal, physical, psychological, emotional struggle, like picked up their pipes consecutively for 500 days and submitted to contests and showed up to band and all that stuff and just been like a perfect little piper. Like that person doesn't exist.
Right.
So don't try to be that person. Just be better than you were yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, and we don't want to, of course, like lower the bar. Like all of us, it's good to set goals and like try to do better and stuff. But like, it seems to me like maybe part of the thing that becomes challenging is that we might assume that if I go like almost 90 days and only play my pipes 25 times during those 90 days, I'm probably assuming without even thinking about it that everyone else in my band played their pipes every single day.
They probably didn't even play them once in those 90 days.
And that's maybe I need a little bit more of a superior attitude about myself and just assume that I'm doing way better than everybody else in the world, which also isn't true, but maybe that's healthier. Probably not.
See,
that's supposed to be a joke, right? But
yeah, and I couldn't recommend the 100-day challenge enough because one, it's an incredibly supportive, awesome group. Two, it's a great way to one tune on your instrument once a day is like that's not gonna kill you. That's not hard.
yeah.
And once you get into the rhythm, it's the genius in a lot of doogie stuff is that it's habit forming. So you're forming habits without realizing you're forming them.
Yeah.
I attempted the 100-day challenge probably like a year ago. I made it to like day 35 and then failed. And I was like, oh, I suck. Like, oh, poor me. I started again. I think I'm on like day 12 today or something. I'm going to play probably right after this. And it's so funny how it became a thing that I look forward to.
Yeah.
I'll be going through my day. I'll be doing one. I was like, ooh, I want to play my bagpipes when I get home. Like,
Right.
yeah.
That's one thing that, like, when I talked with my buddy Swan in that habits episode that we did, we talked about like how do you remove barriers, how do you set up sort of triggers and reminders, things like that. And when the playing that I have done in the last 90 or so days has come in like starts and stops. Like I played consistently for 6 or 7 days at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And what often has happened is like one thing that I decided to do that I'd never done before is I just kept my bagpipes out. And so like at the end of the day, I turn off my computer. That's when I play a tune,
Yep.
so they're right there. Not
Yeah,
in the case,
you can't see right now, but I'm sitting at my desk in my office, and behind me, my case is open. My bagpipes are fully assembled except for the chanter, which is it's in its like little humidifier cap, like just ready to rock for that exact same reason, right? Because you just go in, you slap them together, bang out. I post a video of me playing every day for my 100 days. So, and you don't have to do that. You can just say that you did it. But I was like, it's fun. I get to play for people that I don't know, and I get told that my blow stick's too long every single day by Andrew Douglas. But yeah, so I just have like a little phone tripod in my room. I set it up. I hit record. I bang out a tune or two, and then boom, I just post it. I mean, the whole process from tuning to posting probably takes me about 10 to 15 minutes. And it's like, dude, who doesn't have 10 to 15 minutes?
Yeah, so you remove barriers, makes it easier to do it, right?
Yeah, and then, sometimes pipes are sounding pretty good, or I've had a couple beers and I'm in the yard playing because it's nice out, and I'm like, let's bang out like 5 or 6 more tunes.
Yeah, and I think that's the idea behind the 100-day challenge, right? It's like
it's 100% the idea.
Just one tune, but of course, once you're playing that one tune, you'll be like, I'm going to play a little more.
Yeah. I mean, everyone gets that point to where like I've had a few of them where it's like getting kind of late at night, and I'm like, oh crap, like I don't want to bug my neighbors too much. I'm going to do one and done.
Right.
But it's just building that habit. Put your instrument together, tune your instrument, get everything going, bang out a tune, mark it off, mark the day off.
Yeah. Well, and that's as I look back over where my empty spaces are, where I didn't play for 4 or 5 or even 6 days at a stretch. It almost always is the day following a funeral. I go play a funeral, and then I come back and I leave my pipes in the case, and the next day
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
pick them up, and then I'm out. So like I haven't established a habit yet because I never go more than 5 or 6 days.
See, here's what you need to do. You have a smartphone in your pocket, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
All right, you take that smartphone out and set an alarm for 6:30 every single day.
Yeah, there you go.
And just 6:30, bagpipe time, baby. Like,
Yeah. I'm gonna pull the soundbite out of this episode of Josh Mc. And now I'm afraid of saying your last name wrong.
Don't worry about it. McEachern, that's me.
McEachern saying bagpipe time, baby, and that's gonna be my alarm.
That's it. Yeah, bagpipe time, baby. Let's do it. and it's so funny because you see rapid improvement. One, I mean, like I said, for me, it's part of my day that I look forward to now. It's never like, I gotta play my bagpipes. It's like, like sweet, I'm gonna bang out a tune when I get home.
Right. Now
then it's just trying to figure out what to play because by day 50 the repertoire is going to be getting a little thin.
Yeah, if you're keeping track in like this bagpipe in the Piper's Planner here, you write down what you played on each day, and like I have noticed like, I play the same 4 tunes quite a bit, don't I? Maybe I should try some of these. Let's dig up some tunes from high school or something.
Yeah, I did one. I posted. I think it was the one I posted yesterday, and I was like, crap, I have to do a quick one because I had a bunch of stuff to do later that day. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna dust off my old like grade 3 MSR Strasby and like see how that's hanging up. It could use some work. So if I end up recording that one again over the next 100 days, I'll be okay with that because I will hopefully be able to see improvement.
Yeah, see improvement, right? There's progress there. Now
it was so funny too because you can like in the video you can see my speed start to ramp up as my dogs are about to knock over my tripod that has my phone on it. I'm just like, no.
The you and Andy's soon to be significant other, right? Beer Boy Brad, you guys are doing this little competition on the dojo, right?
Yeah, so we've been working on. It's so funny too because I'm so behind on edits for this. Like I am on edits for everything. But we decided that we're like, hey, let's do because we both play like video games.
Yeah.
And so we'll game together sometimes. Like, hey, let's do the dojo like it's a video game, basically.
Yeah.
Because you can get like points and you can get achievements and all that kind of stuff.
Is Andrew Douglas going to provide a boss at the end?
He's definitely the boss battle.
He is 100%.
The boss. He's the boss battle. We'll have to get through some of the sub bosses like Carl and people like that first.
Right,
but yeah, so we're like, hey, let's do that, and it's super simple right now. We're gonna try to come up with some ways to zhuzh it up. But it's just Josh and Brad beat the dojo. Basically, we kind of get together once a week and we record a recap of like what did we do? Did we get a lot done? Did we not get a lot done? Did we do any cool classes? Or did we just grind through stuff? And then that's it. We literally post that, and we're just keeping track, of how did we do in the dojo recently, and who's getting more points, and who has to take punishment shots at the end of the episode.
And is the competition points specifically, or is it also street creds, which belt level you are? 'Cause, they've got the dojo has a few things like that, right?
It's specifically points right now. We might get, but our goal and the thing we set out for is like, what if we tried 100% the dojo? Like what if we try to do everything that they have?
Try to do it all. Yeah.
There's no way we could ever do it, right? Because it's massive.
It is huge, yeah.
But it's fun because we're like, all right, cool, like and it gives me an excuse to get on Zoom and chat with one of my friends about nerdy bagpipe stuff once a week. So who wouldn't take that?
Yeah, something we're all lacking at present, right?
Yeah. So it's been fun.
I try like not just with bagpiping, but with like all aspects of my life. I'm constantly trying like new apps or like bullet journaling or all kinds of stuff to like get myself, focus more on work, learn a language, work out, play bagpipes, all this stuff, be a better dad, all kinds of things, And I did use an app for a little while. Have you ever heard of this app called Habitica?
Habitica? No, I have not.
It's like an RPG. You get a character and you set your own goals and how many points you're going to get for each goal, and then you get you can buy like armor, swords, stuff like that. And you fight little bosses with the like XP that you gain from doing your chores, basically.
That's awesome.
Yeah, basically no reason for me to insert that little plug for an app, but there you go.
This episode of Droning On brought to you by Habitica. Habitica, play your bagpipes.
They'll probably take that. They're probably cool. Now I see on your LinkedIn profile, Josh, that you're a freelance marketer. You're a nonprofit executive director. You're an EMT student. Is that done? Are you getting close to finishing up?
Yeah, so I've finished all of my like didactics, my psychomotor skills stuff, and then I have at the end, I believe at the end of this month, maybe mid-month. I should probably look that up. I have to do a written examination, basically. That's the only thing I've left. And then I'm EMT Josh. Woo!
Do you not want to say, or is this headed in a certain direction? Are you headed for police or fire or EMT specifically, or hospital?
Yeah. So I actually was working as a communications and marketing director for a nonprofit organization, medical nonprofit organization, for a couple of years, and it just wasn't a good fit, and I got tired of sitting at a desk, staring at a computer, making other people money all day.
Yeah.
So I decided, I was like, hey, I'm going to try to find a new gig. And I had a lot of friends that are actually here in Vegas in the fire service. And they're like, hey, you should come work for the fire department. I was like, all right, so what do I need to do?
Oh, that's awesome, man.
So I did my EMT training during the pandemic, which was interesting for sure. And then just applying to different jobs, finish my certifications. I got to get a lot more education, obviously, but I'm gonna be the oldest dude in the academy if I get in, but that'll be okay.
You'll be able to tell the young whippersnappers about real life.
Hey, I may be the oldest guy in the academy, but I'll be the best guy in the service band. All right.
That's the real motivation here, right? You're tired of being one of the fish in the sea. You want to be the big fish in a smaller pond, right?
I'm like, all right, guys, all right, take your bagpipes apart.
Now, our band, we've gone over to the Vegas games a couple times, and it's really great. You mentioned before that it wasn't there before, but you've been a big deal with the games, right? Like for a minute now, like a few years.
Yeah. So I think when I started volunteering with the games, with the Las Vegas Celtic Society, which is a nonprofit organization that runs the event, 2005 maybe. So I was like 15. And most of the work I did back then was like operational. So, make sure I got ticket booths up, I got fencing in place, I've got ground crews doing I was the Swiss Army knife of like something's broke, call Josh so he can fix it.
Send a kid to do it.
Yeah, like Josh is like something's broke, we don't know how to fix it. Someone call Josh on the radio, he'll know how to fix it.
Yeah, he's got some baling twine and a pair of pliers. He'll be
Dude,
fine.
Yeah, man, I got I'm still finding zip ties in my 511s, man. But yeah, so I did that for years, and then I kind of worked more on the planning side for a while, and then obviously, I went to school, and I would come back. I would come back for the games every year to run ground crews. I just set up the event, run the ground crews, tear down the event. It was a pain in the ass, but it's good friends and good fun, and I drank beer on the job, so who cares?
Well, it's a good product. I have a good time every time we go over there.
Yeah, I mean it's unbelievable now how far it's come. It's crazy to me, and that's just because it's an incredible group of volunteers, especially in the past 5 or 6 years, that have really made that event not only scale wise and production wise and quality wise really good, but on the back end a really fun place to volunteer with your friends. Mm-hmm. And and then when I moved back to Vegas, I was helping plan whichever year that was. I think maybe I moved back in 2014, so this would have been the 2015 event. And we had some turnover. We'd had some turnover at higher levels that we needed to, fill spots and someone who could wear a lot of hats. And so that's when they made me the executive director of the organization. And the rest, as they say, is me pulling my hair out on an annual basis,
right,
to get that event off the ground. And luckily, especially in the past couple of years, I've been, the years we've been able to do it, I've been consistently adding to my what I call my Avengers of Highland games management folks to kind of help take stuff off my plate, run their areas.
You're all stars.
Man, yeah, that's what I remember when I get them to, when I first got some of the new board members and like chair members together, and I was like, all right, guys, like you're the Avengers. I'm Nick Fury, baby. So I got you together. I need you to do stuff. If you have questions, ask me. There's no facet of the event that I've not been either deeply involved with or ran myself for a year. So like, if you guys have questions, I got 15 years of knowledge up in my bucket. Yeah. Just ask me questions, bring me good ideas. Like, let's knock this thing out of the park and let's have a good time. Yeah. And I think everyone has a pretty good time at that event.
I've never done anything to that scale with the games, but I have helped to organize just the piping competition of games a few times, kind of help steward and stuff like that. And I love doing it, but in all honesty, like thinking on the experience, what did I get from it? To some degree, I maybe I'm sad to say that to some degree I kind of lost sympathy for the competitors to some degree, because it's just like
I can see
you
that.
have no idea how hard it is to get this stuff together, or how hard that person over there worked. Never a personal thing, but like these people over here have been working for months to put this together, and you're seriously going to complain because the shade isn't where you wanted it to be while you were warming up. Do you feel like this hollowed out what was left of your soul? Like,
yeah, 100%. Yeah, you definitely get that because it's like you get it from participants, you get it from the public, and you just got to kind of like brush that stuff off, right? Because like no one's ever gonna like. Well, let me put it this way: there's gonna be a vocal minority that doesn't appreciate the blood, sweat, and tears that you put into something like this, and the time that you're, like I said, we're all volunteer, man. I probably work, leading up to the games. It could be a part-time job for 6 months. I'm probably working 25 hours a week on game stuff, after I'm doing whatever my normal stuff is.
Yeah.
So it is crazy. I mean, it's an absolutely phenomenal amount of work. The thing that I always kind of keep in mind that keeps me sane and makes me not like deck a guest is, for the 3% of people who show up and are just like sullen a-holes about everything and nothing is perfect and nothing is the way that I want it and blah, blah, blah. And how dare you, charge me to come to this crap event.
Yeah.
That I could have just stayed home if I was gonna moan,
Right.
For that 3%, like there's sometimes not as vocal, like 97% of people who are having a great time.
Yeah.
And you just got to keep that in mind, like you're only going to remember the people who were just, but for all of those folks, there's way more people that would like shake your hand and buy you a beer if they could.
Right. It's probably like how you can, when you witness a negative interaction at a restaurant or at a store, you see a customer maybe being unreasonable, you think, well, that person was never a waiter. That person has obviously never worked in the service industry.
Yeah.
It's like those
they
people
would never behave like that, like
Right. And so you get people complaining about an event like a Scottish festival. It's like, okay, you've obviously never volunteered for anything in your life.
Yeah. It's like, well, why don't you have this, or why isn't this here? It's like, because it didn't work out. Like,
yeah. Not enough peacocks, right?
Yeah, like it's not going to be the same thing every year. We've had that with like artists. Like, well, you don't have this artist this year. It's like, yeah, because we had him last year. Like,
right.
I don't want to put on a carbon copy of the event every year.
Hey, and I get really excited about like logos. I'm really into just like clever logos and stuff. Of course, the Las Vegas Celtic Society /Games has the peacock in their logo with all those cool knots and stuff.
Oh, we had to.
Is that because the venue was the park with the peacocks, or like which was the chicken, which was the egg, or which was the peacock and which was the egg in this case?
It was definitely the peacock. Yeah, and it was the venue. I mean, for all the times that we've had people tell us we should hold it somewhere else, I've promptly told those people where they can stick it.
That's where we'll hold it.
Yeah, I mean, as much of a pain, absolute pain. As it can be, like working with the city in a city park that they're constantly like making changes to without any input from us. It's the only venue I think that you can really hold it right now. I'm not saying that there won't be a venue in the future in Vegas that would be more suitable for what we need, but it's pretty. There's shade. It's out of the way enough to where it's not like you haven't probably been to a lot of the parks in Vegas, but a lot of them just cannot sustain 11,000 people over 2 days.
I've been to 2 city parks in Vegas, and yeah, neither like no offense Vegas, but neither was like wonderful.
And especially early on. I mean, I remember when we would consider the weekend a smashing success if we had like 1,500 people.
Yeah.
And early on, people talk about the peacocks, man, and like
they're awesome.
We're hanging out with them all day, and I'm like, yeah, like why wouldn't it be a peacock? Like, come on,
yeah,
it's us. Like we got peacocks all over this park. They're part of the event now, almost.
Yeah. They're like the unofficial mascot becoming official.
They are, yeah. That's exactly how I put it when I put that logo together.
Yeah, I do like that logo.
I was like, hey, like we gotta lean into some of these things. I don't want to put an outline of the strip on the Las Vegas Celtic Society logo.
There are
we don't do anything.
Untasteful things that are associated with Las Vegas as well.
Oh man,
you could certainly use
dude,
the logo if you wanted.
like some of the old shirts, and like I don't want to I don't want to throw too many of our former volunteers under the bus, but I will throw some of them under the bus because they were not nice people. But like, like how many times am I going to need like Elvis or a showgirl or Dice on it's a freaking Highland Games shirt, man.
Oh, I've got some commemorative mugs from earlier games that have those
yeah.
kinds of things on them. Yeah, in my cupboard right now.
I had people who like, yeah, like I still have poker chips from a year where you guys were like handing out poker chips with logos on them. I'm like what in the hell? Like, don't get me wrong, it is a Highland Games, it is in Las Vegas, but it's not like I don't have showgirls and Elvis walking around my park, right? Because it's a Highland Games.
Which one first, right? Is it a Las Vegas festival that happens to include Highland stuff, or is it a Highland festival that happens to be in Las Vegas?
Well, and it took a while. It took a while to convince people, and it got easier once I was higher up in the organization because I kind of had more pull, and I could just kind of like, no, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
It took a while to convince people that our event was good enough in quality of performance, of venue, of vendors, of clans, of volunteers. Like, the event on its own is good enough to represent itself. We don't need to make it gimmicky.
Right, it can stand on its own. No gimmicks required.
It can 100% stand on its own. Anybody that's been to that event knows how epic it is.
Yeah, it is. It's excellent.
And so it's just like, yeah, like we don't, let's put a bagpiper and someone throwing a caber on there because that's what they're actually going to see when they get to our event. They're not going to see crap tables.
Right.
Like, let's lean into the fact that we're celebrating Celtic culture in Southern Nevada, not trying to shoehorn Las Vegas imagery into a Celtic event.
Right. Well, it is an excellent event, and I think that's perfectly justifiable. And I like the new. Well, I say new. Like, I like the peacock logo. I like that a lot.
Oh yeah, man. We love our peacocks now.
Well, and the branding in general, it's very good branding. And again, I don't mean to make you uncomfortable by inflating your ego or anything, but a lot of your branding work is really good. You're good with this graphic design stuff.
It's almost as if I went to school for it
right,
and did it professionally for 2 decades. It's almost like that. Yeah.
The chanter rant stuff is great. I especially like the Secret Six line. I own 1 or 2 pieces of merch from that line. But I saw somewhere that you mentioned a sketchbook. Do you like to sketch like freehand? Like, do you draw stuff as well?
Yeah, not as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Which is, probably unfortunate because if I tried to draw something now, it'd be crap, and I used to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times nowadays, just because I'm so busy, and as you've mentioned, I have my hand in so many pots. It's more time efficient for me to kind of like continuously draw things in my head and then just slap them on the computer real quick.
So you're kind of working in the medium of vectors instead of pen and paper at this point.
Yeah, and like sometimes if I just can't figure something out, or if I'm trying to explain it to someone, I'll still sketch something out. But a lot of time I'm just like, like I've got new merch ideas for the summer that we're hoping to do, and it's just kind of sketching itself in my brain. And then once I have something I like up there, I take the time to sit down and put it on a computer.
Mm. Hey, speaking of which, I don't mean to be one of those guys who complains, but what happened to the "Wash Your Hands, Hail Satan" T-shirt? I love that.
It was a shirt that sold, I believe, precisely 2.
Oh no! See, my plan,
and one of them is mine.
Oh,
one of them mine.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that's me shooting myself in the foot because I was constantly telling myself, like, one of these days I'm going to pick up one of those shirts. Yeah, one of these days I'm going to grab one of those.
That's okay. We have some. I have one that I'm working on right now. Or I'm not sure if you're familiar with Baphomet, the image.
Oh, of course I am. You kidding?
So yeah, it's gonna be Baphomet with bagpipes. That's gonna be because we always got to have something a little too metal in the store.
All right. Well,
then
I think this time I'll act immediately instead of waiting until something goes off the shelf.
Yeah, and then I think the new Secret Six stuff. I made some changes to Secret Six, so there's gonna be like a version 2 Secret Six that's gonna be coming out pretty soon. But just one of those things where it's like, yeah, I so rarely have the time to sit down and sketch, but just between like work and life and games and band and chanter rant and all this different stuff.
Right.
So I kind of imagine things in my head the way I want them, and then eventually I imagine it exactly the way I want it, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, I'm gonna make that.
Yeah.
And then some are just layups, like I was looking at our big LED sign, and I'm like, why don't we have that on an embroidered hat? Like that looks dope.
Yeah, and it does. Looks really good.
So, the good news for me is I get to usually test drive our merch before we promote it too much. So I ordered myself one of those hats. I'm excited.
Yeah. Now,
but yeah, the Wash Your Hands, Hail Satan shirt was such a such a brilliant idea that just like nobody got.
That's
know?
too bad.
And it's like, and like sometimes, like yeah, like sometimes I think, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you have something that like, I remember when I was designing it, I was like, oh my god, this is so funny. And I was gonna do 2 versions originally. I wanted to do an English version and a Spanish version.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm trying to capture that Mexican pipe band market, bro.
Yeah, well, it's an untapped market, really.
Dude, and it's so crazy. So I follow a bunch of bands that are like South American bands and like even like Asian like bands in Asia and stuff like that on like Instagram. Dude, they're so good. There's like I remember once upon a time, this would have been, I think this was possibly before we did the Ireland trip. It might have been after the Ireland trip. But like we were trying to get funding because we were going to go to Mexico and do like a documentary on Mexican pipe bands.
Oh, really? That would be awesome.
Oh, I'd still want to do it for sure. But I was like, dude, we could go like me, you, and like we have a friend that plays in the band with us in the Vegas pipe band. She's from Mexico originally. She used to play with Band de Gaitas Mexico.
You interviewed her, right?
Yeah, and so like we're like man, how do we bootstrap getting like the 3 of us to Mexico for like a week?
Yeah.
And like I'll bring my cameras and stuff, and like we'll shoot a documentary about Mexican piping and try not to get abducted.
Right. Cool.
Yeah, I think that would be. I mean, and it could be a mix of like, okay, let's talk about Mexican piping. We'll have a little best friends adventure, and like I'd watch that. I'd watch that for you. Yeah. Granted, it would take me 7 years to edit at the rate I'm getting things done nowadays.
Right. Well, I was a Mormon missionary in Mexico for 2 years, southern Mexico. And that's probably the only real regret I have of that experience is that I never had my parents ship my pipes to me. It would have been really cool. And I even had a few people tell me, like, you should really bring your pipes. Like, oh, you should have your pipes from there. I didn't want to risk, having them damaged or something. But now looking back, I'm like, I would have replaced them if I had to, It would have been cool to have them with me.
See, this is why I'm super excited that I have plastic pipes now. They're going with me everywhere, man.
How are those working now? You like those?
Oh, I love them. I really do. I don't know what dark magic they used to create these because I've listened to a lot of plastic pipes, and I remember originally a while back I was looking at a set of plastic McCallums because like, oh, I need a set that I can kind of beat the hell out of.
Yeah.
Because we do gigs that are just so brutal that like sometimes I don't want to play my wood pipes.
Right.
I mean, we used to do the 4th of July parade here, and it was like a quarter-mile march, which wasn't too bad, but it was 110 degrees at 9 in the morning.
Right. Yeah.
And so we're just dying,
I've walked out of my hotel room in Las Vegas across the parking lot to my car to like go get food at midnight, middle of the night, right out of a shower, and my hair is dry before I get to my car because
it's nuts.
It's still impossibly hot out there.
Yeah, I mean, and what a culture shock and like environmental shock it was when we went to play with Bagpipes.
Just wet all the time.
Northern, it's just wet. It's just dank and mucky and wet. The whole I remember trying to get the I had like one of those old canister systems that I'd borrowed from a friend to take because they're like, yeah, you need some kind of moisture control system. And we do practices. And like after every practice, after every like competition, whatever, like you go back. We were staying with one of our friends that was in the band who very, very graciously like put us up for the entire trip, basically, so we could afford to do it because we can't afford hotels, like we're two broke idiots. Yeah. And so like we'd go home, we'd empty out our canister systems, stick the kitty litter in the microwave, like get all the moisture out, load it back up because you're gonna have to play again, and then the next day or whatever.
No, man. Here in like Vegas and Utah, Arizona, over here, the moisture control system is just take your chanter out when you're done playing.
Precisely.
That's all you have to do.
I remember when we would do gigs. We would do gigs like the 4th of July parade, or like sometimes in Pleasanton, which gets people always complain to me. They're like, oh, like how do you do Highland games in Vegas in April? Isn't it like super hot? I was like, dude, have you ever been to Pleasanton? The Pleasanton Highland games Labor Day weekend, it is 7 times more hot than it is at our event. It's brutally hot there. It's just because it's the time of the year. But I was like, yeah, I remember we went to mass bands in Pleasanton or 4th of July here in Vegas, and like the moisture control was like you'd shove an ice cube in your bag.
Right, you got to like put a garden hose down there.
Yeah, it's like you put an ice cube in your bag and just like pray,
Well, go ahead and give it a plug if you want to. Your pipes, because you just barely got them, right?
Yeah, so I got these. Actually, I got these right. I want to say beginning of March, maybe. So I've had them for about a month. These are McClellan Revelation bagpipes.
And
So
you got
they're
that cool elevation chanter too.
yes.
I
Oh my
want
gosh,
that, man. I'm so excited about that.
dude. If you're playing in Nevada, Utah, or Arizona, you want this chanter, 100%.
Yeah, no,
Like it is.
I've been trying not to email. What's his first name, Mr. No, Roddy. No, who is it who makes them?
Roddy, yeah, Roddy
Yeah,
McClellan.
Roddy. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I only emailed him once, but I've wanted to email him so many more times. Just be like, when can I buy one? I have money.
Yeah,
I will
they're
give
making
you the
them.
money. I want it now.
That's the big thing now is they're just basically trying to get enough stock because like these things are gonna go like gangbusters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean you guys are probably kind of in the same boat that we are a lot of the time where you've got like 90% tape over your high G.
Yeah, there's no high G sound at all happening over here, man.
And it's
The
just
high
all
G
tape
disappears, yeah.
and then it's just squawk and it's like
Yep. That's one of the most common questions I get. I know that as people are getting more and more proficient on their pipes, as they're learning, the question's going to come, what can I do to make it so I can hear my high G? I'm like, you
Yeah.
can't. There's nothing to do. You know, like,
or you tape it down and it squawks.
yeah,
you know?
or like take a Dremel to your chanter, just, cut a hole.
Yeah, I'm about to say just go nuts.
Yeah, mutilate it.
But yeah, so I've been playing that. So yeah, they're plastic pipes. They've got I guess the dark magic is they've lined the bores of the drones with like a polymer thing, and it's like, it's like porous in a sense that it gives like a decent drone like wood sound.
Do you know, is that the reason for that bowling pin profile that they have? Is it to make more room on the inside for another layer, or is that just the way he makes his pipes?
I think that's just the way he makes them because I've seen a lot of his a lot of the pipes he makes that are like the classic McClellan profile have that huge like bowling pin top stock thing.
Yeah.
I'm fairly fortunate that these don't have that. These look pretty standard.
Because I don't want to question him. He's the artist, and I'm sure some people love that. But I'll be honest, it's not exactly my cup of tea, And so
No, and I could, yeah. I mean, I think that's just the way it is with pipes, though, right? Like I've seen pipes with like pink ferrules and stuff. I'm like, dude, it's your instrument. Like, if you like it, then more power to you. Or like, if I was a pipe maker and I was making pipes, like I'd make them the way I want them to look.
Yeah. Honestly, guilty confession for you. I really like the look of just all poly, plain turned, just solid black pipes. Like
like this,
just black.
Yeah, just black and just smooth, like gunmetal. You know,
exactly. That's exactly it. This sort of matte finish, I like that a lot.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. That looks pretty cool. These just look. I mean, honestly, they don't look too different from my McCallums. They certainly sound very different. But yeah, I mean, I'm loving these things, and that's part of when you really like your instrument too. It's nice. It's helpful to get you to play every day.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you don't, and if you're listening and you're out there, and you don't like your instrument, there's stuff you can do to make you like it more. Like like your bagpipes should not be killing you, man. Like you should be able to play for a very long time, fairly easily. All it takes is a little bit of elbow grease and making sure that they're set up in a way that is comfortable and efficient for you to play.
Yeah, your bag doesn't have to leak. Your reed doesn't have to bust your guts.
Straight up, dude. I mean, I don't play a very hard reed right now. I grew up playing 2x4s, and it's crazy. Like, when I first made the switch to, like, a sensible reed with good tone, I blew the damn thing out every time.
Yeah.
I'd go to play Fusco's pipes, and all the drones would cut off, and the stocks the stocks would shoot into the atmosphere, and
Yeah,
I was so used to playing these big, thick, crap reeds.
Yeah, where you have to manhandle your chanter around and everything. You know Zach, my buddy Zach Lees, who passed away a little while ago.
Yeah.
He an amazing piper, such an amazing piper, and I was always surprised the few times that I played his pipes, how like just the most delicate touch, just the gentlest instrument. And the thing is, that's because it takes a lot of skill to keep that kind of setup steady. Right.
Oh yeah, and you got to, and it's one of those things. I mean, we talk about this in our band, and it's a legacy dojo thing for sure. Like we talk about 4 questions. Like you don't check to see if your bag is airtight, your stocks are tight, your drone reeds are calibrated. You don't check that once a month. You check it every time you play. Because if you do it every time you play, it's easier. It's less work. If you're only doing your maintenance once a month, you're going to have to do a lot of maintenance on that 30th day.
Right.
If you're doing little things every time you pull them out of the box, overall, you're really making light work, you know, because like, oh, like I have to hemp one joint today because it's a little loose. Cool.
Right.
I don't have to take apart my whole rig.
And you save yourself from those disasters where you go to play a funeral and
Oh,
your bass
man.
drum pops out or something.
Dude, some of the things I have seen,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, maintenance.
Yeah.
I had a buddy of mine. I think we probably talked about this on the show. I had a buddy of mine. We were playing at the grade 3 in, I want to say it was probably in Flagstaff. And he played right before me, and I watched him. He walked up to go do his Strass Bay reel. He struck in. His chanter shot out of his stock onto the ground. He picked it up. He thanked the judge and walked off.
Oh, no.
And that guy had been playing for, you know, he was an Army piper. That guy had been playing for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I'm just like looking at him like, what? You didn't notice that when you put it in? Like,
Oh, that is too bad.
never put off, when it comes to maintenance, man, never put off for later what you can do very quickly right then.
Yeah.
Because it will screw you at the most inopportune moment. And plus,
yeah.
like, you got to think about, like, the quality of your performance, right? So, like, how good am I going to be playing? How good am I going to be focusing on my blowing, my tempo, and my finger work if in the back of my mind I'm like, these are going to fall apart on me at any moment?
Right, absolutely.
I mean, you just don't want to be worried about that kind of stuff when you're trying to land the plane.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Do you want me to... I don't want to take too much of your time, Josh. Do you want me to bring this to a graceful close, or can I keep hitting you?
Yeah. I gotta go drink beer with my dog and my girlfriend. So I have very big plans for the day. Do your thing, bro. However you do it.
Well, I'm just enjoying hearing you talk. Really, I've got some other questions I can throw at you, but you know, don't want to overstay my welcome with you here.
No worries, man. Hit me.
All right, then. I would like to know, other than learning EMT stuff and bagpipe stuff and the the Celtic Society stuff, what else takes up your time and energy? What else are you into?
I've got a new puppy.
So that means you said your dogs earlier. So does that mean you got 2 now?
Yeah, I have 2 dogs now. My girlfriend wanted to get another dog that would be like her dog. And, of course, she chose a dog that is going to grow to be 140 pounds.
Now, what kind of dog is it?
He's an Anatolian Shepherd mix.
Are these one of the... You got long hair on him, too?
Oh, yeah. No, he's going to be riding the struggle bus this summer. That's for sure. Dog stuff. I still work with some freelance clients. I do graphic design, marketing, branding, stuff like that. I got people that I just worked with for years, and they need something. They're like, hey, I need blah.
Right. You're still my guy, so could you do this?
Yeah, pretty much. So I spend plenty of time somehow still in front of screens. But yeah, and then that's most of my day. I mean, I don't know.
You like guns, right?
I haven't been out to the range in forever, though, because I don't want to use what precious ammunition I have.
Right. Who knows how and when you're going to get more, right?
Yeah. It's like I really want to go to the range because I'm like, oh, like, like it's nice outside. Like most of my like middle of the day time is pretty free. A lot of the stuff I'm doing is like first thing in the morning or like later in the evening.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, man, like it'd be a great day to go to the range. And I'm like, but where am I going to find more 45 rounds if I go blast through, if I go blast through 100-round box, like then what am I going to do?
Right now is a situation where you just go get 5 rounds, put them in your pocket. You get for the day.
I'm going to drive all the way to the range to dump 1 mag and then go home.
Yeah. I've got
so that's a little limiting right now, but hopefully that gets sorted. Otherwise I'm going to go buy reloading equipment just to make my own.
Yeah, that's, my dad, like a lot of dads, as he got closer to retirement, he got a reloading setup. He's got a whole table with a tumbler and everything, and that's a lot of what he does right now.
Dude, that's the ticket, man. That's the way to do it. Get a nice little reloading setup someplace with air conditioning, put the TV or the radio on, crack a beer, and just bang out 200-round box.
And not only can you then reuse your own stuff, but every time you go to the range, you're gonna find stuff that you can pick up and reload as well.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those guys, mostly on like YouTube, where they're like, yeah, like I went out for range cleanup, I sifted 7 pounds of lead out, I'm just gonna make my own 2-3 rounds.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I spend a lot of time out in the desert for work out in the desert and mountains, so I figured years ago that it'd be worth it to get a concealed carry permit just so I could be more comfortable with what I was carrying with me out there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and it's a good idea. I mean, it's a good idea in Nevada. It's a good idea in Utah for sure, because like you never know what's out there. And I feel like people are we get a lot of people who open carry here.
Yeah, we do too, and honestly, it makes me uncomfortable because
it's very.
I could grab that just as quickly as you could, man.
Yeah, I just find
my kid could grab that off your hip more quickly than you could grab it.
I find it very irresponsible. It's like how, I get it. You don't feel like paying for the course, or like you want people to think that you're more endowed than you truly are. But
I think most often that latter is.
Yeah, but it's like, man, like you're not, you're making people uncomfortable. One.
Yeah.
Two, I mean, that's just like a shoot me first move, right? If something goes down, I'm gonna glack the guy with open carrying his Glock first.
Right.
So it's like I just don't feel like it's responsible. And like you said, I mean, someone's got a hip carry in a grocery store. How do you anticipate doing proper weapon retention?
Right, absolutely. I mean, anybody could walk up behind him and just slip it out. It's just
like you said,
Josh. Let's make some enemies with this episode.
Nah, it's like it's not even that. Like I'm a gun guy. I'm a pretty responsible gun guy.
I think we are, wouldn't we?
Yeah. I'm very much in many aspects of my life a safety first type person.
Yeah.
Safety first, then teamwork.
Well, I'll tell you
like
what.
you said, dude. Like if I'm 6 inches behind you in the line at the grocery store, like I'm gonna get that out of the holster before you do.
Yeah, for sure. Yoink.
Yeah. So just do it's not like it's hard, especially not in Nevada or in Utah or Arizona, to get a conceal carry.
Man, $50 in an afternoon.
Yeah, it's like $50 in an afternoon, and guess what? You got to, and then you got to drive down to pick it up. Like for us, you have to drive down and pick it up from the sheriff's. Like that's it. So it's like, dude, just spend a little money, spend a little time, be more responsible, and like don't be freaking out people in Albertsons because you got a gun on your hip.
Right. Yeah.
Or an AR on your back. Like what is that for? Like
those are the ones
it's like what are you gonna do here?
You spent so much time asking if you could. You never paused to ask if you should.
If you should, yeah. I mean, I was like, in what world is a backsling going to be something you quickly access in a fight, right? Like, not in a million years.
I saw a guy in a Walmart, of course, here close to my house, with an AR-15 on his back, and guess what it had? There was a bayonet on the end of it. Like, man, he's gonna stab himself in the thigh just from walking. If he doesn't.
Well, that's the thing is like the guy that's carrying a backslung rifle probably is going to miss all 30 shots, so he's going to need that bayonet.
That's right.
Because no one with any level of like proper firearms training is going to do that.
It's more like a spear in the shape of a gun. That's what he.
Yeah, I was like, you might as well just take it and swing it at me because I'm assuming you can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Yeah, a sharp stick is a lot cheaper, and you're going to achieve about the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, what about when it comes time for a performance? Like one thing that I actually found very useful from this Piper's Planner is at the back it has some of these lists, this spot where you can list gigs. And, like I've been playing gigs for years now, and so I feel I probably am too confident, but I was like, well, I'm going to try this book out, this Piper's Planner thing. And so the first gig I got this year was at the end of January. Of course, it was outdoors, a funeral at a military hospital a military cemetery that's like on a hill, so it's always very windy and freezing cold. And but the day that I got the gig, it was kind of sunny, and so I was like, all right, got this gig, did my usual thing, and then I looked in the Piper's Planner, and it's got this spot where you're supposed to put down the temperature and humidity of the day. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll look that up. And like I would have assumed that the day that I got the gig, the weather was going to be the same 3 days later, right? And it was a pretty nice day, but no. The forecast said 33 degrees and snowing on the day of the gig. And I was like, oh, good to know. And therefore, the Piper's Planner saved me for that gig.
Yeah, you gotta check that stuff, man, especially if you're going to be outside.
So when it comes time for you to do a gig, what kind of stuff do you do? What's your prep like?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, I like to leave my stuff like ready to go at a moment's notice, right? So I'm a fan of like when I get home from a gig, that's when I like wash uniform stuff, press my shirt, shine my shoes. Like I don't want to be in a panic ever. Mm-hmm. And then my pipes.
Have you ever been late to a funeral?
No, I've not been late to a funeral. I had one gig that was like a friendly pub gig that I completely did not show up to.
Ooh. Well, I was late to a funeral once, and let me tell you, I still feel shame. It was horrible. It
sucks, man, and you feel so bad. I mean, yeah, I'm the guy that shows up 2 hours early to the airport, man, because I don't want to miss my plane. So it's just easier for me, and it's not like what am I going to do? I'm going to tune. I'll sit in my car and play my chanter. I'll listen to a podcast. Like, it doesn't bother me. Mm-hmm. I'll slam Red Bulls like it's going out of style. But yeah, so preparation's important. I think that your stuff should always be ready to go because you never know. One, and it's just one less thing to worry about, right? Mm-hmm. Like if I know my uniform's ready and a gig comes in, I'm not worrying about that. I'm not like, oh, do I have enough time to get this cleaned or whatever, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. I play my instrument all the time, so I'm not too worried about my instrument. I'll always check that. I keep my boo-boo kits on me, so I've got, make sure I got hemp, make sure I got tape, make sure I got whatever I need to fix any problem that may arise.
Yeah.
And then a great trick that I learned for those cold weather gigs, kids, if you're out there, one, you should consider having like a thermal undershirt in your repertoire.
Oh yeah.
Make your life easier. Two, for your little handsies, a couple tricks I learned. One, get like the like athletic wrist warmers, and you put them on your wrist and put your shirt sleeve over it. Get a little bit warmer blood going to the old fingies when you're going to play. So that's the thing that I keep in my case if it's going to be cold or crappy out.
I like that idea better than just rubbing Tiger Balm all over my hands and then.
Yeah, that's oof. And then I had a buddy of mine. He'd take two 9-volts and connect them in opposite terminals.
What?
And it would warm up like a hand warmer.
Oh, I see.
I mean, you could do that. I don't know the safety of that
I'm a little
practice.
bit scared of battery acid on the hands, but sure.
That might be a little sketch. But you could have like hand warmers in your kit. Nice little whiskey flask. Never hurts if it's going to be crappy out. Take a little bit of that sadness out of the rainy, crappy weather. Quick little nip. But a lot of it's mental preparation.
Yeah.
And it's work you do before. If you have a person that you're working, the biggest thing that I've learned recently that I wish I had known earlier was really, like, you got to really come up with a way to tactfully deploy increasingly probing questions to make sure you know exactly what's going on.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you're going to show up expecting them to give you some idea of what's going on, and they're going to be doing funeral stuff, and it's going to be a cluster. Right. Same thing with weddings. Same thing with a wedding. You got to be like, all right, I want you to go through exactly what I'm going to do. Where am I going to warm up? Where am I going to stand? What am I going to play? What's my cue for that? When do you need me there? Do you mean there early? Am I surprised? Is there a special request? Like, when am I going to be able to get the heck out of there?
Also, who else is going to be playing or singing or whatever, right? So
who else is going to be performing? Like, yeah. I mean, a big thing I tell people is like really push them to front if they can, because like you don't want to play a funeral or wedding and then just be like hanging for a check.
So awkward, especially after it's just
it's just
grace analogy.
Thing. You should be like able to like show up, execute a detailed plan. And a lot of time you get people who are either overwhelmed with options because they're planning a wedding and the bagpiper was the last thing they thought about. Overwhelmed with grief because it's a funeral of someone that they really cared about, and they don't want to have all these decisions right now. And the person did not leave specific enough instruction, or just overwhelmed with like having a good and stuff's going on, and you're like, hey, like, I gotta get out of here. Like, come on, like, where's my check? Yeah, it's a lot easier to just be like, hey, and I tell them like, just so you know, get hectic on things, get hectic of. If you want to pay me before, that would probably be easier, or just let me know what you think.
Yeah.
Because then it's just one less valve you have to worry about what you have in your pocket for someone at this event. Like,
and I feel like I've found, tell me if this is the same for you, that more times than not, when I try to ask the real questions, often what comes of it is really what they want, whether they realize it or not, is for me to tell them, here's what bagpipes usually do at a funeral. Does that sound good?
Precisely.
And then they usually say, yes, that sounds good. Okay. And then there's no more need to go on with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, and sometimes that's it, Like I tell you got to help them get to a decision that they want.
Yeah.
Because they'll be like, hey, we're doing a funeral for Great Aunt Sally. We would love for you to play green sleeves as they lower the casket down. I'd be like, no, that's a bad idea. Like,
yeah. Do you? I don't expect you to remember, but I sent you guys a recording that I'd sent to a customer with me to do memories from cats.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that.
So bad, man.
I'll tell you what, though, for a cover of a bad song on an instrument that the song was not written for, I could tell it was memories. I mean...
Well, thanks. I'll take that as a compliment. But, man, I had to convince them that was a bad idea. Usually I'm like, I'll do anything you want. I'll make it work. You bet, because this is your thing, But that was the one where I was like, I really don't think you want this.
Yeah, this is not gonna give the vibe that you're at. Like, let me tell you,
the way to send your dad off. Let's not do this one.
No, it's one of those things where you gotta kind of be like an advocate, right? You have to be like, hey, I'm a piper, I'm a musician. I know a lot about this instrument. Let me tell you what I think you want, and then we can make adjustments from there.
That's better for them than you saying like, "What do you want?"
Precisely. Yeah. It's not like, oh, well, here's a person that knows nothing about piping.
Right.
So it's like, oh, so what tune would you like me to play? And they're like, I don't know. What tunes are there besides Amazing Grace?
Right.
And I'm like, well, there are many.
There's Scotland the Brave, for example.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing for me. Like, I had people, I've had people before where I'm like, hey, if you want, like, I've got some tune recommendations, the tunes I know that you probably have never heard of.
Yeah.
If you want, like, I'll go when I'm home tonight, I'll record them and text them to you.
Right.
Just tell me what you think.
I like the way you phrase it, that you need to be an advocate for them. Basically, you want to make this good for them, and so whether that means telling them, here's what I think could work, and then now what adjustments do you want to make from there?
Yeah, because just being a sycophant isn't in their best interest, right? Mm-hmm. Like that, just going along with whatever. It's like if you get something, I have times where like I played a wedding and they're like, well, and we'd like you to play Amazing Grace, and I was like, I really don't think that's appropriate for a wedding, guys. Like it's gonna be a freaking downer.
Yeah, you can be like, what about Highland Cathedral, right?
Yeah, you're gonna have Aunt Sally sitting in the corner bawling into her napkin right before.
2 weeks ago, we played that for her grandma's funeral.
Yeah, like right before some crappy wedding DJ comes on and plays Tub Thumper. Like, right. What are you gonna? Yeah. Like let's think this through from a holistic standpoint, not just this one. Don't think about it just as this 5-minute segment. Like, how am I fitting into your plan for your day?
Yeah. Now, if I could ask you, and maybe it's answered already, but do you have? I know that you're kind of a hot shot on Pumpkin's Fancy. Do you have any other like go-to tune that either your friends and family request, or just that it's your favorite tune to play for people?
Yeah, I've got a lot. And then the funny thing, like Pumpkin's Fancy is like My Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. It's like the song. It's like the song everybody wants to hear that I don't really want to play.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I think it is that for a few of us, actually.
Yeah, and it's so ubiquitous in piping and like kitchen piping, because it's just like it's a perfect example of something that's not super traditional, and when executed well and quickly, general public's like, oh, holy shit! Like, I never heard bagpipes sound like that before. Look at that. But yeah, I got tons of stuff I like to play. God, what have I had in the mix lately? I've had Desert Storm in the mix. Fantastic hornpipe. If you're talking hornpipes. Incredibly technically brilliant, both in its composition and when played well. To a crowd, they don't know the difference. They're
of course. That's the,
if
we
you
do
if
this
you,
for our own satisfaction, right?
Yeah, like it's one of those tunes where it's like if I play a really good Desert Storm, other bagpipers will like look at me and be like, "That was really good, man," and the general public will be like, "Do the one with the bendy things."
Yeah. Yep.
Desert Storm's a good one. Chasing Shadows, great hornpipe. And it's a fun one to play with other people because there's like a really super simple like harmony part for whoever's too drunk to play the main.
Right.
That's a fun one. And then like I have a fairly stale routine of doing like a slow tune into a fast tune.
Oh yeah, that's my go-to gimmick every time I do a show, man.
And so like slow tunes. Like I know some fun stuff. What was the one? I think it was called Marion's Call, which is a like really interesting weird slow air that Aaron Shaw wrote.
Yeah, a few years ago I managed to email Aaron Shaw and got him to send me some sheets.
That's I did that. I remember listening to that tune. It was on a Wicked Tinkers CD.
Yeah.
And it's so funny now because, like, I know those guys now from, like, doing the games. And, like, they'll come through Vegas on things and, like, call me and be like, hey, we're going to Frankie's. Like, you free to meet up with us? And I'm like, yeah, totally. But, like, back in the day, when I was a kid listening to piping CDs, I was like, oh, my God, Wicked Tinkers, man. Like,
dude, they were Zach and I used to drag Main Street in Payson, Utah, blasting the Wicked Tinkers loud and hammered albums out of his, like, Nova.
Like, that stuff was just it was so crazy. And I remember, like, early days, I might have had dial-up internet, right? This is how freaking long ago this was. I remember, like, going to the Wicked Tinkers website and, like, scouring for a contact form or something.
Yep.
And I found, like, the info@ email address or something and emailed it. Like, little like, 15-year-old Josh, right?
Yeah.
And I emailed it, and I was like, hey, I listened to this song. I listened to this tune that was on the album. That first slow air is like really, really cool. is there somewhere I could like buy the sheet music?
Yeah.
Because I want to learn to play it. And like the next day, like Aaron emailed me back, and he's like, "Oh, here it is. Like I've attached it." And I was just like, "What?" I was like, "Aaron Shaw got my email."
Right. I interacted with Aaron Shaw.
And so I've always loved that tune because it's kind of cool and weird. And then another one I've been playing lately is because it just gets people, and it'll even do this with pipers. They'll kind of like turn their head and be like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
It's Tim. God, I'm gonna forget the guy's name, but he does like
is he
does
local,
like
Tim Cummings.
Tim Cummings. Yep.
Man, I like that guy.
Dude, he's crazy good. And he did. I saw a video of him doing "Man of Constant Sorrow" and "Sound of Sleet."
I know exactly which video you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, and so I went on his website and I bought the sheet music for both of those. And so far I haven't done "Sound of Sleet" in a performance yet, but I'll do like "Man of Constant Sorrow" into like a hornpipe.
Yeah.
And that one's fun because on the pipes, on the Great Highland pipes, you have to actually play a C natural in that tune.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just like a kind of a fun thing, and it's always fun when I play it around other pipers because they'll be like da dee dum bum bum, and you're like, oh cool, like this is like some kind of slow air tune. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, like all of a sudden you hit that C, and like people start like pipers turn, and like wait a minute, did he do that? Man. Did he do that on purpose?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
They're like that sounded like it was on purpose, but was that a honker?
Right. Yeah, I don't know if you knew this. Tim recently started a Patreon thing. He's got different levels. You can join real cheap, and every month he's arranging new tunes, and like some of them are like for like 5 sets of small pipes, or some of them are like like mazurkas, or like all his kind of stuff, right? Just like stuff you wouldn't expect to be on pipes, and then he does it, and it works really well.
I am googling that.
Yeah, definitely. I would highly recommend getting in on that because every month he'll put out a recording of it and the arrangement that he did, and it's been nothing but good stuff so far. It's been so great.
Oh yeah, man! I'm definitely checking this out.
Yeah, I've got a. The first time that I met Aaron Shaw was the first year that they came to the Utah Highland Games, and I don't want to sound like I'm being like, oh, I was so ahead of the times. I'm not being a hipster about this or anything, but at the time, like Zach and my other piper buddies and I, we were mostly the only like avid fans of the Tinkers. Like now, when they come to town, like you can't get through to their merch tent, at any time during the day. It's just crowded all day long. But at the time, that first time they came, after they did their set, they came down and sat down, and there was nobody at their merch tent. They're just sitting there, right? And so my buddies and I, we just walked over there like, hey, hi, like just nervous, also like 14, 15 years old. And they let us come in. Aaron Shaw let us play his small pipes. They let me try the Balron and didgeridoo, their first didgeridoo guy with the long hair. They signed everything we could push at them. We got like our hoodies signed. I got my Balron signed. They signed every album that we would buy from them. They were very accommodating, but I had a very similar experience of just being like, oh my gosh, this is Aaron Shaw.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, it's just fun. It's a fun crew. I still like to this day because I used to hire them pretty frequently for the Vegas games.
Yeah, they're a good fit for the Vegas games. That makes
sense. So I'd hire them when I could get them. And I remember it was always funny because they're like, yeah, you're the only guy that's like a Highland Games organizer that when you see us at other events, you come buy us a round of beers. And I'm like, that's because I was like, guys, that's because we're friends. Like we've known each other for like 8 years. I like to think we're pretty good friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, when my friends are playing music, I go buy them a beer.
Yeah.
Because you looked thirsty up there.
That you even sounded like Aaron Shaw when you said it there. Was that on purpose?
Oh yeah, man.
That's the way you would say it. Do you have a biggest fan yourself, Josh? Who's your biggest fan when you get the pipes? Who gets excited about it?
I have probably my mom. I don't know. Like I don't know that anybody's like stoked to hear me play. I mean, I like playing, so I'll play for anybody who wants to listen.
Yeah.
It's always interesting because she's probably the one that complains the most if she hasn't heard me play in a while.
Yeah, I got you. She's a good mom. It's nice.
She'll be like, well, you raise this kid and get him all these bagpipe lessons and take him to events and stuff, and he won't even come over and play bagpipes for me. I'm like, all right, fine, Mom. Jeez.
Classic mom.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't think if anyone was like super enamored with my playing, they would tell me. I think they'd be like, nah, he's got a big enough ego as is. Like, right. We're just gonna
let it lie.
Yeah, we're just gonna let it lie. Like we don't need this.
If money were no object, what would you be doing in the pipe band world? What piece of equipment would you get, or what trip would you take? What would be the thing for you?
Dude, I follow a guy on Instagram. I think his handle is The First Piper. Have you ever seen this dude?
That does not sound familiar. No.
Yeah, so it's I'm pretty sure his account is called The First Piper, and he literally just like travels the world and like plays pipes in cool places and like meets people and like does shit. That would be the dream gig. Like that looks like awesome.
Yeah.
He looks like he's having such a good time. But yeah, I would check that account out. It's really cool, and like I'm pretty sure he works in like production or something too, because it's like really well done.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I would do. Like I would just travel around. You would never see my again.
I really do appreciate. I know that you've made genuine efforts to like make it so I don't have to do as much work in post. But anytime it slips through, it does make me laugh.
I'm working on it.
I really appreciate it.
I'm trying. I'm trying for my buddy, because I know what it's like to have a crap edit.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you how you feel about pineapple on pizza.
Different strokes for different folks, right? I mean, I'm not a huge fan. I get the appeal. Of like a little bit of sweet, but I'm also fairly pedestrian in my pizza tastes. I'm like, give me a straight up, just great pepperoni pizza, and like that's usually what I'll mess with.
Yeah,
I've had all the specialty pizzas and all this fancy stuff, and don't get me wrong, I just think simplicity. Maybe this puts a nice bow on my opinions on piping as well. Piping and pizza. Something simple executed perfectly, right, is usually better than something very complicated executed poorly.
That's beautiful. Honestly, I was next going to ask you, like, do you have anything you'd like to say for me to kind of fade the episode out on? But I think that might actually be the perfect thing to fade out on.
It's almost like I do this every week, man. Look at me go.
Right, yeah, you're good.